everyone. It's George Couros. Welcome back to another highlight of the Innovators Mindset podcast for the month of August 2024. And it's Saturday. It is about 8 minutes before I'm about to jump on a podcast with a principal I connected with this summer. And I wanted to share why I'm bringing that up, because he actually reached out to me and said, I would love to do your job, to do the work that you're doing. So do you mind if I pick your brain? I said, actually, if you want to meet with me, let's do a podcast. So not only can we talk about some ideas, talk about some opportunities, but let's get your name out there. Let's get you exposed to as many people as possible who might not know you. And the reason I share that is because I hope sometimes you come here to listen to me. That's why I do some solo podcasts. I just recorded a solo podcast before I did this introduction. But maybe you're sometimes here to listen for me, but then I use my audience that I've, connected with over the years and shine a light on somebody else. And I don't think that ever diminishes me at all. And if you ever have the spotlight on you, one of the best things you can do is share it on other people. One of the things I tell new speakers is when you actually speak to an audience, the first thing you never do is introduce yourself. The first thing you do is you make sure that you acknowledge the people in front of you. You acknowledge the people who presented before you, the people who brought you in, the people behind the scenes, and then get to you. And I think it's something that's really, really powerful. One of my favorite quotes, I've shared it a million times, is from Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. He said that one of the most powerful words in our language is your own name. That is, just hearing that kind of lights people up. And so I'm really excited to talk to this principal, to connect with him, share some ideas with him. I love people that are excited about this work and that are eager to learn, will take the initiative to reach out. But I become better for it too. I become so much better. And so I think that sometimes people get insecure that if I have a space and if I actually give everyone else, it lessens me. I actually think it only makes you better. And not only does it make you better, I don't think anyone's like, oh, well, I don't really care about George because that other person's way better. Maybe you do. I don't really know. But I don't think it lessens me at all. So the quick intro, if you ever have the spotlight shining on you, take an opportunity to shine it on others. And that's actually what we're doing right now. You're going to see so many great guests, so many great ideas on the highlight video for the month of August 2024. Welcome back to another highlight edition of the Innovators Mindset podcast.
I think it was last year, probably about a year and a half ago, I had texted you and I said, what do I need to do to put in a proposal for a book? And you said, are you ready? And I said, I'm ready. I'm writing. I have this idea that I'm putting together. He's like, okay, you do your table of contents, your intro, your first chapter. And I was at it. I was like, okay. I was looking at all my material, all my content. And I was like, what direction do I want to go in? Because I had a lot of content and I was just trying to think about how to best thread it all together to weave a beautiful story. Because I really feel like that our lives are like these collections of stories, and those stories can really positively impact others. So what's the story? What's the narrative I want to tell here? And so I was really, in thinking about this, I've been inspired by a lot of leaders and a lot of people, and I've used a lot of these interactions as guides on my path. And that's a lot about what I write about. And a lot of these people I surround myself with happen to be women, but also others as well. And I thought about, well, wouldn't it be great to have this book where I can not only share my path to leadership, people who have recognized leadership qualities within me from the time I was a very little girl till now, but also I'm very big on amplifying other people's voices and elevating other people's gifts, because we're better together. Collectively, we are better. And so I brought in some voices, all of who I know. So I have Lainey Rowell, I have Stephanie Rothstein, I have my fourth grade teacher, Linda Roth, who still is a mentor to me to this day. And I think that's a pretty cool aspect of this book, that my fourth grade teacher is writing in it with me. Natasha Nurse, and Megan Lawson. So all of these people are fantastic educators, fantastic writers and thinkers and thought leaders. And that was important to me. And I know you've done that in a lot of your books, George. I know because of The Teacher was a big inspiration for that concept for me to be able to do this. And now your book, What Makes a Great Principal, actually reminds me a lot of this. Because I think it's nice when you're reading a book to, you have my voice, you have the author's voice, but now let's hear this idea from someone else. And maybe it could be a little bit different. Maybe they've taken a different entry point to this idea. And then back to another voice. I think it keeps it interesting and engaging. There's something about that I really, really like. I like the spirit of that. So anyway, the book really came together because I was blogging about my path to leadership. I was blogging a lot about, and by the way, the first part of the book is all about the path to the leader inside. All of these people who serve as signposts along your journey. They're kind of lanterns that guide you. Even interactions along the way that you might have considered unfavorable, those are important interactions too, because they tell you who you want to be and who you don't want to be.
While you're doing superintendent, and it's not like you just are bored, like you have so much time on your hands, you're like very busy person. And actually, as I'm talking to you about this, one of the things I saw yesterday is like, you're busy, everyone's busy.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you say you can't exercise because you're busy, put it in your schedule and it will change you. Like it will change you. Like you would, like it's an appointment you make with yourself. So I want, like, tell me, you take, like, you really focus on your own well-being. And I think it actually, a lot of people, I think it's like a selfless act. It might be a selfish act that leads to selflessness, or it could be a selfless act, but I don't think it's a totally selfish. Why has that been so important to you to focus on that?
And it's funny you ask that because I was talking to some of my accountability partners, and the question was, do you work out for you or do you work out for others, right? And so I think it's a yes and. And so for me, and I'll kind of go backwards throughout my educational career. And if you take the time to look through my Twitter feed, because I've had it forever, you can see how I have evolved. So I was a very full-figured woman, very, like, the face, fat, everything, right? And over the years, especially when I was working on my doctorate, so that was like in 2014, 15, 16, around that area, that I had gained the most weight in my life. So remember, I already had 2 kids. And I still hadn't weighed that much, right? And so I was not taking care of myself. But I was like, well, I gotta work. I gotta get this dissertation done. I gotta be at the game Friday night. I gotta be at the thing Tuesday night. I gotta be this for choir, so everywhere, right? And my daughters were playing club volleyball, which means you're traveling across the country because they want to play, volleyball, select volleyball, and they're going to play in college, and you're trying to get them off the ground. And so kind of going through my whole career, I kind of hit like I don't want to say hit a wall, but I'll say reality check. And my dad had, they had just moved to San Antonio, never forget this. And they were here maybe a year. I'm still in Round Rock at the time. Well, he has a heart attack and a stroke in the same year. Now, he's not a overweight, unhealthy person, but life happens. We have heart issues in our family, on my dad's side. We do. And nobody knows, but now the world knows. So there you go. But that happened to Dad. And Dad told me, I never forget, he got better. We're at a reunion. We're in Dallas. And he says, Tiffany, you better take care of yourselves because you got to take care of those girls. And that stuck with me. Now, did I get out the next day and start running? Nope. But did it resonate? Yes. And so as I kind of went through life and my career, one of the kids had went to college. I think I had one more left. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym. And I just started little baby steps, just going to the gym every morning. I was like, oh my gosh, I hate this. Oh my gosh, but it was the YMCA. I never forget it. But I found my little tribe, right? And so they're working out and they're like, we didn't see you in spin class. I'm like, shoots, so I'd go back to spin class, or I'd go back to strength class. And I started. So then I ended up moving. I got that job in Beeville, and I was like, I got to keep going. And so it's just like a mental, like, want to. And so I started working out. And then I was also not eating well. So I was working out so I could eat whatever I wanted to, right? So not the right
No,
thing
it's
to
just
do.
eating.
Like,
Stupid
not
eating,
the
yeah.
right thing to do.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, I got to do something different. And so working out. Then I go and I get this job here in Buna. And I was like, okay, you got to get your life together because this is going to be hard. You know what I mean? You know, you're going to be just going nonstop. So I really came and I even told the board, I was like, I have priorities and these are them. Okay. First is my faith, my family, my health, and my career. And it's in that order. And not to be disrespectful, but that was my priorities. And I shared that with my staff. Every time I went and met with them, I said, these are my priorities. And what that means is if my family calls and says, hey, somebody's sick, died, whatever, I'm out. I gotta go check on my family. I'll be back, but my family's first. You know, my faith, you know, and it's my personal faith, whatever you believe, that's fine, but I have my faith and that's my values and that's my cornerstone, right? And then my health. And so I work out every morning. And so I told the board, I told my staff, I told my team, you can call me from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's my window. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And so when I get up in the morning, 4:45, 5 o'clock, I'm working out, nobody calls. Now, we had a bus accident that happened one time. It was 6:30. One of my guys said, I know we said not to call, but this is important. I said, this is one of the calls that you do make before 7, you know? And so of course we took care of it, but I had just come to the realization that I got to take care of myself mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And so I work out every morning. I make sure I eat my clean meals. It's a running joke when we order food in the office. They're like, don't worry, we know Spicer wants a salad, get her salad, you know? And so it's not like I wanted to go this direction, but it just happened. And I know I needed to. And so the weight started coming off. I started feeling more secure and better about myself, more energy. And I also learned that I needed to tell my team, my leaders, my teachers, hey, you need to take care of yourself too, and give that same permission that I gave to myself. When it's 4 o'clock and you've got your stuff done, go home. And so I have some people like, yeah, I went for a walk with my family. I started back running. I started back eating well. I'm not doing the best, but I started back. That's what I want. I'm like, because it's not about me. Yeah, it is about me, but it's not about me because people watch you, whether you know it or not. And there's people that watch me that I really probably don't even know that watch me or follow me, but I have to do this for me, but I'm also doing this for my girls, but I'm also doing this for the people that I serve in my district and for other leaders who follow me that I know who have seen me at my worst or my heaviest, who have seen the journey of where I've come from. And so it's not about me. It's about how can we have that collective, because I don't want to die on the job. That's a concern. There have been superintendents in
Texas. And you don't want to retire and die 5 years after either, too, because that happens a lot of time.
And it happens, right? And so I don't want that to be me. I really want to live a full life and I want to enjoy it. And I want to be able to, I ran with my cross-country kids. Oh my God, never in my life did I think I'd do that, right? Now, was I first? Nope. But did I finish? Absolutely. You know,
that's amazing.
So that's the why, you know?
You know, so like when I come out there, I promise you this, but when I come out there, I will work out before I see you. Because if I do not work out before I see you, it's like, that's my coffee. Do you know what I mean? You know, like don't talk to me till I have my coffee. I'm like, don't talk to me till I've worked out, right? Like it totally changes my vibe. Now,
everything
you said this, people are watching you. So I'm going to tell you, I was watching you. And I'm going to tell you something too. And it's actually like such an amazing, I don't even know if you know this, but it was Saturday. So I was speaking Saturday and Sunday in Austin, and I saw you on Saturday. We didn't know each other, but then I think I said, I saw you running this morning. Then that's how we connected the first day. And then Saturday night, I saw you with your daughter and it was her birthday and you were heading out. I'm like, she's not coming tomorrow. Sunday morning, and not only were you there, I think your daughter came with you too.
Yeah, they're working out.
I was like, oh, like they went out and still good for you. Like I was like impressed because a lot of people say, nah, like, you know, because that's where you get in trouble is when you're like, well, this special thing or this thing. And that's when you like, no, listen, I can do some of these things, but I gotta keep with the habit.
You don't take the break. No.
Yeah.
It's
so like
pattern.
It was, so I don't know if you knew that. I was like,
I did not. No.
I was like, really? Showing up after the birthday party. I know you have this passion for, you know, some of the CTE things that are happening. And one of the things you mentioned is that you have an aviation program. And when I started asking about it, I was like, no. There's no way. That's legit. So talk about like some of your, like the overall CTE program at Bellflower, but some of the really unique things that I honestly, I've never heard of in any school district other than when you mentioned it today.
Yeah, so we are very fortunate. We started an aviation program. This will be our second year. We actually teach students how to fly drones, and they can earn their Part 107 license. So they could work for maybe a real estate organization, the fire department, law enforcement. There are many different avenues for that drone flying at this point. Or they can learn to fly planes. So we are taking them through flight instruction. We have a full Redbird installation lab. It's an amazing facility. It's an amazing classroom. Our kids will learn how to fly a plane if that's what they choose to do, and we will support them to do that. By the time they graduate high school, if they start with us as a freshman, by the time they graduate high school, they will have earned their private pilot license. So
really,
yeah, it's an amazing opportunity. Yeah,
that is so cool. Because
go ahead. I'm sorry.
For many people, becoming a pilot is out of reach because of the cost of getting hours, right? Of that. Yes. And I don't know enough about the industry. That's kind of just what I've heard. And so I've never heard of this being offered. Like, how did that come to fruition? I don't know if you know that, like, how did this even happen?
Yeah. So, we wrote a grant to fund the particular program. So lots of the opportunities that we have within our district have been provided by grants. So for example, we have a bioanimator lab where kids learn how to program robots. They use all different kinds of 3D equipment. They use laser cutters, CAD machines, software. It's all grant funded. So any one of these unique opportunities, we've really been thoughtful about the process of how to bring it to the district and then looked for a resource to help support it.
I love it. That is just such a cool opportunity, right? Like when you're telling us, I don't know if I would do it. I don't know.
Oh, I think you should come into the aviation lab.
I want to see it. I don't know. I'm like a little bit, I'm a tall guy and I'm also scared of heights. So like, I don't know. I'm also a terrible flyer. So, but it is such a cool thing. And I love, it's one of the things that's really kind of opening up doors for kids that I don't know they always get the opportunity to have. We talked about before we got on this, and I wanted to kind of hear your definition, what that means to you. You brought up that you're really passionate about facilitative leadership. So I have in my mind what that is, but like, people in education, we're notorious for saying words.
Yes.
And if I say, what does that actually mean? They're like, I'm like, you say it all the time, right? It's like I don't know if you ever saw The Princess Bride. Like, I don't think that means what you think it means, right? Yes. So like, what is facilitative leadership? Why are you so passionate about that process?
Facilitative leadership, that's fair about the definition. Honestly, I feel like there's 101 ways to say it. But for me, it's when you're truly leveraging the team and you're doing it authentically, like, as a leader, there's no way to move forward without the varied perspectives, without their ideas, without their inputs, without their solutions. So as much as working toward something in the content and whatever it may be, the process is just as important for you. And developing that team to lead themselves, to lead each other, etc. So you're facilitating you're creating the conditions where you're doing a lot of pulling out thinking, but the first and foremost is that common vision. And it's not your vision, it's a co-created vision. And then creating the conditions to work toward that vision, knowing that those varied perspectives are of high value, invaluable actually. So for me, it's just, I don't know how I would have done any of my jobs in the roles I was in, to include the classroom, without the input of my students. I would have a reflection bin on my desk, which was, how can we make this, this is our classroom, not my classroom. What can we do differently? And kids would put, this was back with paper notes, and they would put in, and I would read them at the end of the day and make changes for the next day based on the feedback. So I would say that now you think of a facilitator of a classroom, that might be another way for people to make sense of it. Definitely the listeners to this podcast.
I've shared this idea before. People get mad at me for sharing this, which I find is fascinating because you said this is our classroom, right? So one of the things I actually suggest to teachers that hey, a lot of them right now, we're recording this in July. They might be listening to this August. They might even be listening to this while they're decorating their classroom, right? And they're like spending hours upon hours getting that classroom like perfect ready, for the kids coming in. And then they'll say, it's our classroom. I'm like, well, that's kind of yours. Cause like, I didn't have any say in these decorations.
Yeah.
Right. So I actually encourage people to say like, hey, actually don't decorate your classroom before the kids get there. And then on the first couple of days, decorate it together. Then you can actually, it's not gonna look as good. Like, I promise you, if little Georgie was in your class, partly decorating, because he didn't become much better as a teacher to decorate the classroom, it's not gonna look as good as what you're doing. But there is some ownership and there's some authenticity, and it's a great way to learn about your students. But then also there's a pride in, yeah, that's mine. That's that, I put that up. That's like my thing up there too. And now there's a little bit more ownership over the classroom. So is this a terrible idea, or like, is this actually tie into that idea of what you're sharing, or is that like, because
It does.
Sometimes people are like, no, I like decorating my classroom. I'm like, well, don't complain. You don't have any time because you spent 2 weeks doing it, right? So get the kids to play, right?
I would split the difference. I would say it needs to be warm and inviting. You know, it has to have some kind of curation of some kind where some things are ready.
And then the last one is focus on having humility in learning. This one, you know, a lot of teachers I've connected with over the years, they're like, what? I don't have anything to say. I don't want to write a blog. I don't want to start a podcast. I don't do this. Like, what do I have to say? And there is a really great video. It's from Derek Sivers, and I think that's how I say his name. And it's called Obvious to You, Amazing to Others. And in the video, he talks about what is actually just something that you're so conditioned to, something that just is so normal to you, is mind-blowing to other people. So that's why you should actually share, because what you see as your everyday common practice, someone doesn't even really think about it. And so to embrace this, never write from the viewpoint that you're the expert, because when you do that, you are totally up for massive criticism, right? If you're like, well, I'm the expert on this, I know this better than anyone else. As soon as you do that, you're a target. So what I've tried to do is I just share insights from my learning. I don't tell anyone how to do their job. Even when I speak, I get to keynote to teachers, administrators, all over the world. And one of the things I say all the time, look, I'm not the expert here. The expert's sitting beside you. I'm just here sharing some ideas, sharing some of my learning. At the end of the day, you have to figure out the solutions. And I remember my good friend, Mike Kleba, he said, when you said that, it really struck a chord with me, because a lot of times someone goes up there and they're like, well, I'm the expert. I'm the person who knows this. I have all of these accolades that back up why you should be listening to me. Whereas I'm like, hey, I'm just sharing my learning. And the thing is, there's humility in that, because and it can't be just a thing you say, by the way. Like, that's a really important aspect, right? Don't come off humble, but actually be super arrogant. I always go into a place that, you know, I'm sharing my learning, but I'm always open to changing my ideas, changing my thinking. And one of the things I always encourage people when we have like Q&As, have conversations, I'm like, challenge me on some of the stuff I said, because I don't know if I'm right, but I'm trying to figure stuff out. And I think that we are so worried about being criticized. But if you are in a space where you're constantly bragging, constantly just being self-promotional, yeah, then criticism should come your way. But I think it's a lot less intimidating for yourself, and honestly for others, when you're like, look, I'm just sharing some learning. Some of my most controversial blog posts I've ever written, I say to people, look, I'm just writing this to actually figure out my learning, not to kind of tell people how to do their job, because I'm just kind of writing to get my ideas down. So having that humility and just seeing as everything is, hey, I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm just sharing some of my learning, and you take it for what it's worth. You use it however you want. It puts a lot less pressure, and it makes you more open to growth. But it also, I think it's a really great thing to model to people, especially in the field of education. Are you willing to share your learning with others?